Hi, crafty friend. It's Justine Dvorak from Stationery by Justine, where when I craft, my world stands still. In today's video, I'm going to be working and chatting along with you as we go through. I'm going to give you some tips about ink blending with die cuts to help add depth, dimension, and polish look for your projects. I have 9 tips with a bonus number 10 that's pretty controversial. At least it seems to be that way online. So you're going to have to let me know what your feelings are about tip number 10 once we get there. You'll see what I'm using as we go along. I'll just mention it as we go. So I'm using my Altenew grip mat on the bottom, and I have my pieces on there, and I'm using a blending brush and some ink to add dimension. You'll see for this little leaf, I'm starting in the center. I want my ink to be the darkest from the center of the leaves going out. So I'm putting my brush directly onto the center. We're going to talk about some other tips about that in just a minute, but that's currently what I'm up to. So my top number 1 tip is to use a good surface, and that's regarding the cardstock. So on this video, I'm using mostly Spellbinders cardstocks. I use a multiple variety of different cardstocks. Sometimes I don't even know the brand. A lot of times people will give me cardstock when they hear that I'm a card maker or someone quits scrapbooking or whatnot, and then they give me their whole paper hoard, which is amazing, but I don't always know the brand. But I have noticed that when I am using this technique of ink blending on cardstock, it blends much smoother if you have a smooth cardstock. So that is tip number 1. Tip number 2 is to use the right tools for ink blending. So I'm using some ink blending brushes. I have a bunch of different ink blenders in my stash in my craft room. These happen just to be some no-name ones from Amazon. They're nothing like that crazy. I did recently join the Trinity Stamps design team, and they are sending me over their ink blending brushes, so I cannot wait to give those a try. I have some really good ones from Altenew. I have great ones from Spellbinders. So I have a whole bunch. I'll have some just from Distress even. I'm looking over at them. I think they're all kind of different for different reasons. You'll see me use this size on these projects, and then I'm going to grab a teeny tiny detail one that I have from Spellbinders for some purple in just a few minutes here. But using the right tools is helpful. You can use different brushes like foam brushes, detail blenders. It just depends on what you have and what you want to use. So just so you know. Now you just saw I made the crown of the feathers of my little bird that I'm going to put together in just a second here. And you saw that I worked from the edges inward and created a blend. And that is tip number 3, is to work from the edges inward. And that just helps give the shadow and the dimension to your pieces, especially with different things that are alive, like a bird or a flower. Those things all have souls, so they need to look alive. Yes, plants have souls. It's called plant soul. And animals have an animal soul. Feel about that what you will, but that's what I know. Anyway, tip number 4 is to use a light hand. And look how cute this little cockatiel is. Aw, what a cutie pie. That is the bird I am going to mimic my project after. So using a light hand, tip number 4, is important for building the color gradually onto my project. So I'll start here with whatever's left on my brush, just a little yellow. And then I'm going to add more color with this shooting star ink. And that is going to just build up my yellow on the bird head and really get that dimension. Tip number 5 is to blend with multiple colors. So you're going to want to know the inks and the products you're working with. So if you have something like a sunset, or if you have a flower where you want it to be maybe purple and pink, you're going to want to know how your pink and purples blend together. So you can blend with those multiple colors as long as you're using colors that are close on the color wheel, like blue, green, yellow, orange. You're going to get a good blend. If you use things that are completely opposite of the color wheel, you're going to get mud. So just saying. On this bird, I'm using a black blending brush, and I have not cleaned it. And look at what I'm getting. Remember that for later. Know that my brush right now is completely clean-ish. which means I have not cleaned it, but it's just sitting there full of ink. And look at the blend I got. Just keep that in mind for later. All right. Number 6 is to use your die cuts when you are blending. Sometimes you can blend right onto paper that you can cut on sometimes paper that you have already blended. For example, whenever I use my watercolor backgrounds and I grab a die cut with them, you can get a really cool blend. I'm not showing that in this video, but I did want to include it in my tips for you here today. So an example of that would be using a background that has watercolor wash and maybe it has like a blue-green pretty blend. And then I'm going to grab maybe a leaf die and die cut that out with a leaf die on top of that blue-green paper. And now I have a blue-green leaf. Isn't that nice? All right, look at that detail brush. I'm getting all of that detail right onto my little teeny tiny flowers with this teeny tiny brush. This is the smallest blending brush I have, and it is from Spellbinders. All right, number 7, ink before or after cutting. So that kind of blends in with number 6, but if you ink blend before cutting, it can be easier for larger pieces, like if you're doing a big flower with that watercolor paper. But I typically die cut first and then do ink blending like you're seeing here today with all of these amazing cute little birds from the Cheerful Chirps collection. All right, number 8 is to highlight the edges. So you can either darken or lightly ink the edges for depth and shadow, especially for florals. And I have definitely used this tip for Copic coloring. And another way to highlight is using this white gel pen like you see me doing here today. So I would include that into adding texture and things to your project. Okay, speaking of texture, first of all, look at this adorable white macaw. Can you even? Don't you just want to pick them up? I'm not really like a bird lover, as like I wouldn't want to just like hold it and have it as a pet because I am slightly terrified that I might get my finger bitten right off. But I love birds and I think they're so cute. And that bird to me is just like adorable. Again, look at this. I'm using ink brush that is completely I'm not adding any ink. Whatever ink is on there is what I'm getting. I'm getting a cream on my paper. Remember that for later. Okay, tip number 9. Back to tip number 9 was adding texture. So I'm using ink that is water-based, but if you use distress inks for your blending, you can go ahead and water spritz and get a speckled effect, and that can look really cool on flowers or different sky backgrounds, galaxies, etc. You can also add shimmer spray and embossing glaze or magnetic splatter, and that can add a lot of fun texture to your projects. All right. Here it comes. Tip number 10, the most controversial. You're going to have to let me know how you feel about this in the comments. I'm going to let you know all of my feelings as I blend these adorable birds. Tip number 10 has to do with cleaning your tools. I don't do it. I know. I don't do it. But I wanted to include it in this video because some people really feel passionate about cleaning their blending brushes. I am not that person, but there are people out there. So I wanted to mention it because if you end up being that person who likes to clean their brushes a lot, I want to help you. But to me, it's not worth my time. For example, multiple times in this video, I have wanted a light texture of a light color, and I grab my dirty brush, one that I haven't added ink to in a long time, maybe even a week or two. I haven't grabbed for that specific brush. There might be just a little bit on there that's going to give me that color. If not, I can always grab an ink pad and add more. But why would I go ahead, take my brushes, take my crafting time, clean them, and then wait for them to dry just to put the same color ink back on the brush? To me, it makes zero sense. I am just being really blunt with you. The only time I would ever consider doing that is if you're using, like maybe you have one pink brush and you accidentally put your dark pink on first and you want to use your light pink right away. I still wouldn't take it to the kitchen and wash it and wait for it to dry. I would take a microfiber towel, which you probably have in your craft room. If you don't, I would recommend having them, and just wipe it off. Dry clean it. Just give it a little wipe. You don't have to sit there and go down to the creek and wash your brushes. I think that is not worth your time. I'm just being real blunt with you. But those are all of my tips. So now for the rest of the video, we just get to watch and make these fun bird cards. I'm going to end up with 3 cards with all of these adorable birds, but I'm going to show 2 of the making on camera because I didn't want this video to be too long, and 2 of the cards are very similar. But these lovebirds have me swooning. I think they are so cute. Right away when I got this set in my craft room, I knew I wanted to make a card as soon as possible, and today was the day. Look how cute they are. Oh, and then they have these little feet and they sit on this swing. But if you wanted them to be outside birds, you could go ahead and skip the whole swing and put them on a branch, any branch in your craft room, and add any flower, and it will be so cute. But I wanted to show how I made the swing. So I did not glimmer. I die cut it out with glitter cardstock, and then I die cut it out with 120-pound cardstock. I know, thick paper. And that just helped give it a little bit of support. So I'm going to go ahead and add everything together, adding the bar first. And then I'm going to add the little edges that look kind of like it was tied on there, like twine maybe. That glitter paper is just a little bit fussy with the liquid glue, but it's all right. There we go. And this is going to end up being a 5x7 card. So this die set could look super cute on an A2 size or even a square card. If you're doing like a 4x4, that would be just fine as well. But I really thought that these birds looked like lovebirds, especially with the heart. You could skip one of the birds and then have the sentiment. There's sentiments with this set. Oh, they are just so adorable. You can see one of them or 2 of them there on camera. I end up using something totally different from my stash, and you'll see that in just a minute here. But you could lose a bird and then have the sentiment go kind of on the side of the bird. I think that would be super cute. I have a feeling that I'm going to be using these birds a few more times before I put them into the retirement side of my craft room because they are so cute. So fingers crossed that something bird related comes up on Craft Roulette so I can use these again on more videos. Otherwise, you might just see pictures of them on my Instagram. Look at that. Ta-da, cute, clean, and simple card. Just kidding. I'm going to add these words. These are from the Winnie the Pooh style alphabet, and they are just some of my favorite alphabet dies that are in my stash. So I'm using some Glad Press and Seal, and I'm going to flip it over, add glue, and flip it back. That is the easiest way I find to use this method of using the Glad Press and Seal. And I feel like I have to say it on these videos, otherwise someone gets mad at me. But yes, I know Jennifer McGuire's husband invented press and seal. This is not my idea. I'm just using this. Ta-da. Isn't that cool? Recently, one of my subscribers mentioned that she keeps one press and seal in her craft room and has it labeled craft room, do not remove, and has another one in her kitchen. So her family knows not to take that one out. Ta-da, look how easy that was. You can do that with florals. You can do that with lots of little die cut pieces. I think that method is just one that I keep using all the time. All right, we're going to skip ahead to me gluing down the swing and the birds, and we'll move on to the next card. Oh, they're so cute, aren't they? Oh my. So I did trim down my white paper to be 4 and 3/4 by 6 3/4, and then I layered that on top of a pink piece of paper that was 5 by 7. So that finishes off my 5 by 7 card. It's kind of clean and simple. If you ask someone who's really clean and simple, they probably would say it's not, because it's filling a lot of space and there's not very much white space, but I think it's clean and simple. Okay, we're moving on to the next one. This one was my cockatiel, and this reminded me, we have some family friends, and when I was a kid, they had 2 of these cockatiels, and they were named Bruce and Otis, and they were really fun. Again, I'm not a bird as a pet person because I'm slightly a little bit scared of getting my fingers bitten, although I think they are just so beautiful, and these florals are so cute with it. There's 2 options for the greenery and for the flowers, so I went ahead and used both. Now, if you did not know this about me, I am a plant person. I love a good houseplant. I'm really into the propagating plants. I'm really into houseplant care. So at the moment, I have quite a few houseplants. I brought all of mine home from my classroom for the summer since I'm not there every day or even once a week anymore. They're all home. And so my house is kind of like a jungle. So I kind of felt like this bird in the little jungle here with all my house plants, especially with my monstera plants, which are kind of big leaved. So I know from my love of houseplants that some of these houseplants come from the jungle. So some of them are very noticeable. I don't know specifically what these 2 are, but I know that the blossoms and the leaves of these are very distinct. So I wouldn't mix and match the leaves personally. Do not mind the white paper. The white paper is going to be, or the yellow paper. The yellow paper is going to be out the door, Eleanor, in just a few minutes. So FYI. But like I was saying, these branches have different style leaves. So there's the ones that are kind of like a big firework on the right. Those have the blossoms with those 5 little clusters. And then the small leaves that are on my left side have those smaller flowers. Now, I have zero idea of what they are. Even being a plant person myself, I don't know what they are. So we're going to make up the colors from what I want them to be because that's what I'm doing. So the purple flowers are going to go on the top branch, and they're going to have the small leaves because I do know that that floral belongs with that leaf. And then the cluster of 5 is going to belong with the big blossom firework style leaves. Check out these sequins. I could not think of what they were. They're called Yellow Chameleon. They are from Spellbinders, and you might have noticed how I carefully took off the staple for the package, and I'm using these for inside my florals. I thought that was a really fun way to use these sequins. And then I'm going to put the little piece of the flower on top, like so. And it will look like it belongs in the flower. So I did not die cut any paper for the center of the flower. I'm just using the sequins. By the way, they are called Chameleon Opalescent. Very fancy, but they are very cute and yellowy and pretty. I'm going to use these on a few projects in my upcoming videos because they are bright yellow. I've been grabbing for yellows and warm colors way more than I ever have. And I think that's because it's summer and I've tried to kind of expand my palette of what I like to use. And I was using a lot of those cool tones in the winter. I don't know, whatever it might be. I'm grabbing more reds, more yellows, more oranges recently, and you'll see a bright orange card at the end. I'm so excited to share that one with you. I think it's so darn cute. All right, we're adding all of these leaves, making it nice and full for my bird. And then I'm going to place these florals on. I don't really have too much of a rhyme to my reason for placing these. I just know that they are going to be in clumps of 3. So looking at this project, I have 3 purple flowers on the top, and then I'm going to end up with 3 pink ones on the bottom. If I were to redo this card, I would probably add a 4th flower either to the top or the bottom. That way the eye ends up with 7 blossoms to look at, but I digress. We're going to add all of these big blossoms. Things will hang off the edge, and that's okay. So my white panel here, I have used the embossing folder that comes with the Cheerful Chirps collection. It's got this like bamboo tied situation going on, and that is such a cool texture, I think, to add to the back of my project here. This is another one that would look good with any floral, so I probably will keep this one nearby in the summertime as I'm crafting. You might have noticed I just cut that leaf in half. Haha. Isn't it fun just to chop your dies, your die cut pieces? I think you are so allowed to do that. And if you're scared to, here's your permission. I'm telling you, you're so allowed to die cut or to cut your dies. It kind of looks like that bird has a green tail now, but it's going to be fine. At this time, I would like to extend to you a formal invitation to the Facebook group that I run and manage. It's called Stationery Maker Group. I will have that linked down below. And what is it, you might be asking? It's a place for sharing your projects. I love card making. I'm quite obsessed with it, one would say. And I love seeing all of the card projects that I possibly can. And that is my go-to place for sharing and for viewing card projects. So if you have something that you want to share, I highly recommend that you join that group and you share your makes. We always have a monthly challenge. Thank you to one of my moderators, Lori, for setting up our monthly challenge every week or every month. And there's a little giveaway prize. She does a random drawing for that. And then I send you something small but nice from my craft room as a thank you. There's one winner each month. But if that's not your jam, you can always just share or view other people's work. I think it's so fun to share all the cards. So that is my invitation for you. It's called Stationery Maker Group on Facebook. There you have it. And I would also love for you to let me know what your thoughts are on tip number 10 or any other tips that I shared in this video. And then also let me know your favorite card. I am going to allow my orange one to be in the running. So I have this card on screen, my Lovebird card, and my orange card, which is going to be popped on the screen here in just a few seconds. And pick a favorite. Is it this one with the cockatiel, or is it this one, the white macaw? Oh, that's so cute, isn't it? Or is it the Lovebird one? This time, I'm picking this one, the orange one. Shocker, it's the one I didn't film. That's about right, isn't it? But let me know your favorites by just leaving me a comment in the comments. I'm always open for constructive criticism, so whatever you've got for me, let me know. And we will see you in my next video. I am super excited because when this video goes up, I will be meeting Melanie for the first time ever. I'm so pumped to meet her, and I'm sure that you'll see lots of pictures and such on our social medias. So that's that, and we will see you later. Bye, crafty friend.